Welcome back. This critique is for an investigative script about the highly engineered strategies retailers use to control our spending during the Christmas season.
And I have to say, the material is really compelling. Sharp, well-researched. The whole idea of the engineered illusion is just powerfully laid out.
I completely agree. It really pulls back the curtain. But let's get right into it, because there are a few ways to take this from great to truly impactful. Which brings us to our first point. While the script masterfully exposes the mechanics of this illusion, there's a real opportunity to sharpen the significance of it all, the ultimate so what for the consumer.
Exactly. The current draft is, it's extremely effective at documenting what retailers do.
Right.
That part about prices quietly rising in October just so they can have a 50% off sale later?
It's a perfect example.
It is a textbook expose.
But here's my question. The conclusion right now, it leans very heavily on the emotional side of things. It says, shopping feels emotional because the system knows when emotions peak. And I wonder, for an expert audience that already assumes they're being marketed to, does focusing just on that feeling, diminish the weight of the whole piece?
I think it might, yeah. The weakness is that by focusing so much on the psychological manipulation, the script stops just short of detailing the systemic economic consequence of it all.
The real cost.
The real cost. If your audience is sophisticated, they need to see how the micro tricks, the loss leaders, the price hikes, how they translate into a macro impact.
Something beyond I felt duped.
Exactly. It needs to be more like, this fundamentally alters market behavior.
So the suggestion is to ground this in a more concrete, more profound consequence.
Yes, you need to transform the narrative. So instead of "you are being tricked," that thesis becomes, "this manipulation facilitates a massive, predictable transfer of wealth."
That's a huge shift, and it makes the stakes so much higher.
It does. Think about it. If the average family overspends by, a few $100s on these engineered deals, that's one thing.
But when you multiply that,
That's the systemic impact. So for a concrete example, right, after you discuss the predictability of the sales, you could introduce a statistic. Talk about the aggregate wealth transfer this engineering represents every year.
from consumers to retailers.
Billions of dollars. That reframes the entire expose, doesn't it? It's not just about a bad deal anymore. It's about national economic behavior.
It makes it a financial investigation.
And there's another angle, too. You have a great section on algorithmic pricing,
Yes, the personalized pricing.
where two people can see different prices for the exact same product.
Right.
Well, you can connect that to deeper concepts, like pricing discrimination or even market equity.
So it becomes an ethical question.
It becomes a powerful ethical question. You're highlighting the societal cost. Is a market truly fair if pricing is hidden and individualized like that? You're elevating the script.
The tactics are clearly there in the material. This is about defining the profound consequence of those tactics.
Exactly. Maximizing that so what factor will give your findings the weight they really deserve.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about the structure, specifically how the four main controllers are presented.
Yes, our second major point. It's about optimizing that structure for impact.
So the four controllers, pricing calendars, algorithmic pricing, loss leaders, and shipping deadlines are currently presented as sort of elements of equal weight.
They are.
But restructuring them could build so much more narrative tension. And it could really emphasize the most insidious form of control.
I felt that as I was reading. It felt like there was an arc of escalating invasion, but the sequence didn't quite reflect that.
So what's the specific weakness there?
Well, the section on algorithmic pricing, which is, let's be honest, the most novel and alarming concept here.
The idea of real-time price manipulation. Yeah.
It's quickly followed by something much older, like loss leaders.
It's like an anticlimax. We go from this, digital espionage back to the classic discounted milk in the back of the store trick.
Precisely. You put the most sophisticated, invisible, personalized mechanism right between two older, more traditional methods.
And that just dilutes the shock value.
It absolutely does. The narrative sort of steps backward, and you lose the urgency you worked so hard to build.
So the suggestion here is pretty clear then. Resequence the core mechanisms.
Create an escalation.
Move from the observable and traditional to the invisible and personalized.
You need to build a structural ramp of increasing pressure.
So where would you start?
I'd start by grouping the observable methods. So you link pricing calendars and loss leaders together.
Okay.
They get people in the door, either physical or digital. That's the foundation.
That makes sense. It establishes the old school tactics first. Then what?
Then you create a really clear narrative shift. You move from that macro foundation to the micro, personalized threat.
So this is where algorithmic pricing comes in.
This is where you hit them with it. The hourly personalized threat of algorithmic pricing. It's all about behavioral data, your history, what you left in your cart. It defines your personal vulnerability.
Placing it there makes it feel like the terrifying evolution of the old pricing calendar, doesn't it? The moment planning goes from static to dynamic to one-on-one.
That's the energy. I mean, think of how many people have experienced that, you know? They clear their cookies or switch devices and suddenly the price just jumps.
That's the betrayal we want to focus on.
And that feeling belongs right near the peak of the story.
Okay, so what's the final piece? The top of the crescendo.
You end the section with shipping deadlines. You've already called it the ultimate emotional weapon, which is perfect.
The ticking clock.
Exactly. You show how all that intense, algorithmic control is finalized by the urgency of a shipping cutoff. It's the point where, as you wrote, logic drops.
So you go from general to specific to invisible to urgent.
And the structure itself supports the severity of your argument. It makes the whole piece feel tighter, more inevitable.
It lets the most compelling evidence land with the most force. I like that a lot.
Right. Now let's look at the resolution. The final impression you leave with the listener.
Yeah, our third point, the conclusion. The closing lines right now deliver very powerful diagnosis. Christmas shopping feels emotional because the system knows exactly when emotions peak.
It's a great summation. It really is. But here's the challenge. The current conclusion, it risks feeling a bit fatalistic.
How so?
It sort of implies that the consumer is just this predictable victim in an all-knowing system. And for an expert audience, just highlighting the control without suggesting a way to fight back, it can feel incomplete.
So just exposing the mechanism isn't enough for this audience?
Not quite.
They need to feel that this new knowledge gives them some kind of power.
Exactly. The whole argument hinges on the system's ability to predict our behavior, right?
Right.
So the conclusion should pivot. It should be about how recognizing these patterns allows the consumer to become unpredictable.
And regain the control that was engineered away.
That's it. You're aligning the script with what an expert listener wants. Concrete, actionable insight.
I like that framing. It's moving from resignation to resistance.
Yes. Frame the final insight not as the system controls sales, but as something like awareness is the only countermeasure to predictability.
That small shift changes the entire tone. It goes from exposure to empowerment.
But we can't just tell them to be aware. We have to get more specific. We have to turn this from a theoretical expose into a practical guide.
A specific call to action.
Exactly. And you draw it directly from the evidence you've already presented.
So what would that look like in practice?
You use your most powerful examples. For instance, you establish that quiet price rise in October. So the counteraction is to tell the listener to use October to verify the baseline price of something they want to buy. You turn them into their own micro-investigators.
So instead of getting tricked by a fake discount, they have their own data. They have an anchor.
Precisely. And you do the same thing with algorithmic pricing. Give the listener specific tactics to break the algorithm.
Like what?
Tell them to clear their cookies, to use a private browser window, to switch between their phone and a laptop, just to test for that differential pricing you warned them about.
So you're asking them, are you seeing the same price when you log out?
Yes, you're giving them tangible tools. They can immediately put the script's findings to the test and, measure their own vulnerability.
And the listener walks away feeling like they've developed a new defense rather than just feeling defeated by the system.
That's the goal. It fulfills the highest promise of an investigative script. It doesn't just diagnose the problem, it provides the solution.
This has been incredibly constructive. So to quickly recap our 3 main suggestions for really maximizing the impact here.
First, it was about enhancing the so what factor. Connect the illusion of a sale to a real economic consequence. Move from trickery to systemic wealth transfer.
Second, we talked about resequencing the 4 controllers. Use the structure to build narrative tension, making sure that algorithmic pricing lands as the climax.
And third, it's about reframing that conclusion. Shift from a diagnosis of the problem toward audience empowerment and actionable resistance. Turn predictability into a counter-strategy.
Refining these elements is going to drastically improve the material's overall impact. It'll ensure your expert audience not only understands the system, but also understands their role in resisting it.
We really look forward to seeing the updated script.
And we invite you to submit your improved work back for a future critique. Until next time.